Have you ever witnessed a fight where someone goes down almost immediately? Whether it be in school or in the ring. Why does this happen? Well, I'll tell you. It has everything to do with their good technique. Knowing how to throw a punch is essential in today's society. Though our species is supposed to have an advanced brain, we seem to not be able to solve any problems without violence. So knowing how to defend yourself, well, it's an essential part of life. Being a trained martial artist who's been sparring and teaching others for years, let me teach you the way of the masters. To throw a punch, you must prepare first. But oftentimes, if you're actually getting in a fight, you won't have much time. So use what little time you do have very wisely. So, how do you prepare for a fight? The most important thing is to stay calm. Your opponent will sense your panic like sharks in the water. I also would suggest, if you have time, to remove anything that limits sight or mobility. Things that can catch on your skin as well might be a good idea to remove, as they can be difficult in other times, such as large hoop earrings. They are not lying when they take those off in the movies. The first part to any punch is your fist and your stance. These are incredibly important to make sure that you don't send yourself to the ER. So let's start with the fist. First thing is curl your hands in. You don't want them out like this. You might not break your fingers, but it sure is gonna jam them in. That's not fun. Now, some people may tuck their thumb in like this. And you might be saying, hey, it protects the thumb and that's the most important part of the hand. You would be right on one of those facts. The thumb is very important, but this will actually damage it more. If you know anything, when you punch something, the force of that object is going into your hand. So if your thumb's curled up right in there, it's gonna dislocate or break it. We don't want that. So what should we do? Definitely not the thumbs up. It could catch and break your thumb as well. There are two options. One, curl it up tight and put your hand either in between your ring and middle finger or on one of those two and curl it up tightly. And two, the wrong option. Now, if you're a boxer, this might be good because you have those massive boxing gloves on. If not, don't do that. Don't do it. Now that we've got our fist properly prepared, let's prepare our stance. Don't lock your knees. Don't do it. When you lock your knees, you're making yourself more vulnerable to being pushed over. That's not fun. Also, don't bend your knees too much. When you do that, you're gonna lose mobility. What you're gonna wanna do is slightly bend your knees. That way you can move very quickly and be more stable. Now also, how do we stand? What we're gonna do is we're gonna have our dominant leg, our dominant arm in the back. This may seem contradictory, but we're gonna explain. Slightly to the side. This is because if you're standing straight on, generally there's much more of a target to get, as well as less range. It's not very fun. So what we're gonna do is have our legs about shoulder width apart. Generally, you're gonna be fully to the side, but I'm showing myself being a little open here to kind of explain. You're gonna have your hands up by your face in fist the entire time. And after that, you're gonna bend your knees only slightly. If you're bent too much, as I've explained before, that actually reduces your mobility. But if you're too straight, that also does. So blend them slightly so you can move very quickly, have stability. Now that we have our stances and our fist ready, we've gotta throw our first punch. There's two types of punches I'm covering right now. That is the jab, which is the punch closest to your opponent, and the cross. These are the two you will most likely see in an actual fight. Now, these two are very important. They are the basis of every other punch we are gonna do. So first, let's start off with the cross punch. This is the most versatile punch, the most powerful punch, and the one with the most range. That seems weird since this one's closer, but you're wrong. With the cross punch, you're gonna lean in and extend forward. That means with your stance, stance, it's gonna slightly change. Your stance is gonna bend its knee and lean into the punch. But there's more to do with this punch than just the stance. With this, when you're punching, you wanna turn your fist as well. If you don't turn it, I guess that's okay. It's just gonna be less powerful and less fast. This punch is meant to be strong and fast, just as any other punch, but it's mostly meant for the strength. So when you punch, you wanna lean in, you wanna turn your fist and punch. You're gonna wanna go fast on any of these punches, because if you leave your hand out for too long, your opponent has the opportunity to grab your hand. But what do we do with our other hand during this punch? We're not doing a double punch. That's stupid. What we're gonna do with this hand is bring it down to your side. You don't want it to flail out all the way to the other side, because then it's gonna take a lot longer to bring it back up to your face. And you want them up to your face because your opponent is gonna see an opportunity if you only have one or none of your hands. That's gonna allow your face and your entire body to be open to attacks. Let's start with our jab. Our jab is slightly different. It has different mobility and different uses. Jab punches are definitely less powerful. They're more meant for a quick out and back to distract an opponent. Of course, you don't want to do a weak punch ever, but it's also not meant to knock someone out. This punch has the same properties as the other, slightly different though. The turning of the hand. This is going to be very important in most of our punches. Some of them will use different techniques, but the turning of the hand in these two punches in particular are very, very important. When you turn your hand, it's not going to be as much as this one, but you still are going to do it. As well, you don't lean into the jab punch. Technically, you could, but your balance is going to be off center. You're going to be very forward. And that could lead into your opponent grabbing you or sweeping your legs, and then you're on the ground. In a fight, you do not want to end up on the ground. So now we have our two basic punches, the jab and the cross. Now remember, just because you know how to do some strikes does not mean you're an actual fighter. There's a lot more strikes you can do. There's kicks, blocks, dodges, and all other types of things. You should only use this for self-defense if you don't know any other type of fighting, and never go looking for a fight. I'm gonna leave you with the words of my master. It's kind of ridiculous and cheesy, I know, but it does really hold strong. Only use this technique, only use your fighting skills to defend your life and the lives of others.